Have you ever felt like the world around you was completely falling apart? Like no matter where you looked, people were just treating each other terribly, and everything felt broken. Now, imagine that feeling multiplied by 1,000,000. That is exactly where our story begins today. It is one of the oldest, most famous stories in human history. Even if you have never opened a Bible, you have probably heard the name Noah. You know about the boat, the animals, and the flood. But the actual story, the human side of it, is far more intense than the colorful nursery rhymes we learn as kids. Let us rewind to the very beginning. The setting is the ancient world, many generations after the very first humans. At this point, the human population has grown massively. People have spread out, built cities, and developed complex societies. But there is a massive problem. The world has gone completely dark. The ancient texts tell us that the earth was filled with violence. Corruption was everywhere. Every thought, every intention of the human heart was focused on evil all the time. It was a world of pure chaos, greed, and cruelty. People took what they wanted, hurt whoever got in their way, and cared only about themselves. Imagine being the creator of all this. You made this beautiful, perfect world, and you filled it with vibrant life. But now you look down and your creation is tearing itself apart. The texts describe God as feeling deep, agonizing sorrow. It says his heart was broken. The grand experiment of humanity had turned toxic. So the Creator makes a heavy, terrifying decision. He decides to wipe the slate clean. The plan is to wash away all the corruption, all the violence, and all the brokenness. A massive, world-changing flood is coming to hit the reset button on planet Earth. But right before the end of everything, there is a tiny glimmer of hope. In this sea of darkness, there is one man who is different. His name is Noah. Noah is described as a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time. Now, this does not mean Noah was absolutely perfect and never made a mistake. It means he was walking in the right direction while everyone else was running the opposite way. He loved God, he cared for his family, and he tried to live a good, honest life in a world where doing the right thing made you a massive target. Noah is not alone. He has a wife, and they have 3 grown sons named Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The sons are married too. So we have a family of exactly 8 people just trying to survive in a society that has completely lost its moral compass. One day, the Creator speaks to Noah. Try to put yourself in Noah's shoes for a second. God tells you that the end of all living flesh has come. The world is too violent, too corrupt, and a great flood is going to destroy everything. It is a terrifying message, but God gives Noah a way out. He gives him a bizarre, incredibly difficult instruction. God tells Noah to build an ark. When we say ark, do not picture a sleek, modern ship with a steering wheel and sails. The word literally means a box or a chest. God is asking Noah to build a massive, floating wooden box. God even gives him the exact blueprints. It has to be made of sturdy cypress wood, coated inside and out with sticky pitch to make it completely waterproof. It needs to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. In modern measurements, that is about 450 feet long, or the length of 1.5 football fields. It is supposed to have 3 decks, a roof, and 1 single door on the side. This is an absolute beast of an engineering project. And here is the craziest part. Noah is not living on a beach. He is likely inland, far from any major ocean. And according to some historical traditions, it had not even rained on the earth yet, at least not in any way that would cause a massive flood. So Noah has to start gathering massive amounts of timber. He and his 3 sons have to learn how to fell giant trees, cut them into heavy planks, and construct the largest wooden vessel the world had ever seen. They have to do this day after day, year after year. Imagine the neighbors. Imagine the people from the nearby towns walking by and seeing this small family building a gargantuan boat in the middle of dry land. Noah becomes the ultimate laughingstock. People surely mocked him, called him crazy, and threw insults at his family. They probably asked him when the rain was coming, laughing at the giant boat sitting in the dirt. But Noah just keeps hammering. He keeps sawing. He keeps spreading that sticky black pitch over the wood. He is acting entirely on faith, trusting a voice that told him the impossible was about to happen. God also tells Noah exactly why this box needs to be so big. It is not just for his family. God says he is going to bring 2 of every kind of living creature, male and female, to the ark to keep them alive. Birds, mammals, creeping things on the ground, they are all coming. Plus, Noah has to gather and store enough food to feed his family and this massive floating zoo for an unknown amount of time. The pressure is unimaginable. Decades are passing. The boat is getting taller and wider, casting a massive shadow over the dry earth. The world continues its violent, careless partying, totally ignoring the giant wooden warning sign being built right in their backyards. Eventually, the final planks are secured. The food is stored in the lower decks. The giant wooden door stands wide open, waiting. In the next part, we will see what happens when the sky grows dark and the animals finally begin to arrive. The wooden colossus is finally finished. It sits in the middle of dry land, a massive shadow looming over the surrounding towns. For decades, the people have watched Noah and his family toil under the hot sun, cutting, hauling, and hammering. They have laughed at him, called him a lunatic, and carried on with their violent, careless lives. But today, the laughter starts to fade. The air suddenly feels incredibly heavy. The wind shifts, carrying a strange chill, and the bright sky begins to take on a bruised, unnatural purple color. Then the horizon begins to move. It starts small, just a faint shifting of shapes in the distance. A pair of birds circles overhead and gently lands on the massive wooden roof. Then a dozen more follow. From the forests, the plains, and the mountains, a steady, unbelievable procession begins. Noah and his family do not have to go out with nets and ropes to hunt these creatures down. The animals come to them. They move with a quiet, deliberate purpose that defies all logic. Massive elephants, towering giraffes, crawling reptiles, and nervous livestock all march in pairs straight toward the open door of the ark. Imagine the absolute chaos and awe for Noah's family. Shem, Ham, and Japheth are scrambling up and down the wooden ramps. They are carrying oil lamps, shouting instructions over the noise, and guiding this endless stream of wildlife into their designated pens. Predators and prey walk side by side, their natural instincts seemingly muted by a higher command. A lion brushes past a lamb, completely uninterested. The hollow belly of the ark fills with a deafening chorus of chirps, roars, snorts, and the heavy, earthy smell of hay and damp fur. This surreal parade goes on for 7 tense days. The townsfolk watch this impossible migration in stunned silence. The jokes stop. A creeping dread settles over the crowd as the sky grows darker by the hour, shifting from gray to a terrifying deep black. The barometric pressure drops so fast it makes ears pop. Then, the first heavy drops of rain begin to fall, smacking against the dry dust and hissing on the hot stones. It is time. God speaks to Noah one last time, telling him to enter the ark with his family. Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives walk up the wooden ramp. They pause at the threshold, taking one final, heartbreaking look at the world they have known. They step inside the dimly lit interior, the air thick with anticipation and the sounds of restless animals. And then a deeply profound moment occurs. Noah does not reach out to heave the massive timber door shut. The ancient text tells us that God shut him in. With a booming, heavy thud that echoes through the lower decks, the great door seals completely. They are locked inside. There is no handle on the inside. There is no going back. Outside, the gentle rain suddenly turns into a violent onslaught. The sky opens up like a collapsing dam, dumping sheets of water so thick you could barely breathe in them. But the danger is not just coming from above. The ground beneath the mockers' feet begins to shake violently. The earth's crust tears open. The ancient records describe the fountains of the great deep bursting forth. Massive geysers of high-pressure water erupt from underground, shattering rocks and swallowing entire fields in seconds. Rivers instantly overflow their banks, and the oceans surge inland with unimaginable force. Panic sets in as people scramble for higher ground, but the water rises with terrifying speed, wiping away everything in its path. Inside the ark, it is pitch black, except for the flickering light of a few small oil lamps hanging from the wooden beams. The noise is absolutely deafening. The pounding of the rain against the thick wooden roof sounds like a million hammers. This sound is mixed with the terrified cries of thousands of animals who feel the earth shaking beneath them. Noah and his family huddle together in the center of the ship, holding onto the wooden pillars as the floor violently shudders. Then they feel a massive, terrifying lurch. The floodwaters have reached the base of the gigantic wooden box. The timber groans, creaks, and screams under the immense pressure of the rising tide. Slowly, heavily, the massive ark lifts off the mud. They are floating, but they are entirely at the mercy of the most violent storm the planet has ever seen. The ark has no sails, no rudder, and no steering wheel. Noah cannot chart a course or pilot them to safety. They are completely sealed inside a dark, bouncing wooden chest, tossing wildly on a raging, infinite ocean. The waves crash against the sides with the force of an earthquake, sending the family tumbling to the wooden floor. They have to constantly navigate the dark, pitching corridors to feed the panicked animals and clear out the waste, all while struggling to keep their own footing. Outside, the water keeps rising. It swallows the tallest trees, the highest hills, and eventually the peaks of the greatest mountains. Absolutely nothing is left but dark, churning waves. The rain falls relentlessly for 40 days and 40 nights. Inside, the family loses all track of time. Day and night blur together in the suffocating darkness of the hull. They are alive, but they are trapped in a floating prison of survival, exhausted, terrified, and waiting in the dark with no idea when or if the raging storm will ever end. In the next part, we will see what happens when the raging waters finally stop rising, and Noah must discover if there is any world left to return to. For 40 days and 40 nights, the violent drumming of rain against the thick wooden roof is the only sound Noah and his family know. And then, one day, it just stops. The sudden silence inside the ark is probably more shocking than the storm itself. The violent tossing slows down to a gentle, eerie rocking. But the ordeal is far from over. Outside, the world is just one massive, endless ocean. For months, they drift on this quiet, watery graveyard. The supplies are dwindling, the smell is overwhelming, and the family must be wondering if they will ever walk on solid ground again. Imagine the claustrophobia. Imagine waking up every single day to the exact same darkness, the exact same animal noises, and the exact same lingering fear. But the ancient text gives us a beautiful, comforting detail right in the middle of this bleak waiting period. It says that God remembered Noah. A fierce wind begins to blow across the earth, and the waters slowly start to recede. Finally, after months of endless, aimless drifting, they feel a deep, solid thud that shakes the timbers. The ark has grounded itself on the peaks of the mountains of Ararat, but they still cannot leave. They wait for weeks as the water level drops, watching the jagged tops of mountains slowly peek through the endless blue. Eventually, Noah opens a window he had built at the top of the ark. The bright, unfiltered sunlight must have been blinding after so much time in the dark. He needs to know if the lower lands are dry, so he releases a raven. The strong black bird just flies back and forth, soaring over the water and returning to rest on the ark, finding no dry land to settle on. Next, Noah decides to send out a dove, but the dove finds only water and returns exhausted to the window. Noah gently reaches out, takes her, and brings her back inside to safety. He waits 7 more long, anxious days and tries again. He releases the dove into the crisp air. This time they wait all day. As evening approaches, there is a flutter of wings at the window. The dove has returned, but this time, in her beak, she holds a freshly plucked olive leaf. It is a tiny, simple thing, but to Noah and his family, it is the greatest treasure in the entire world. It means the floodwaters have dropped below the tree lines. It means the trees are breathing again. It means there is life. When Noah sends the dove out a 3rd time a week later, she does not return. She has found a new home in a freshly washed world. Finally, the long-awaited command comes. God tells Noah to bring his family and every living creature out of the ark. Imagine that exact moment. The heavy seal of the massive wooden door is finally broken. As it groans and swings open, a rush of fresh, clean, sun-baked air floods into the stale, dark belly of the ship. Noah, his wife, his sons, and their wives step out onto the muddy earth. Their legs are probably shaking, struggling to find balance on ground that is not constantly rocking. They look around at a world that is completely washed clean. The skies are a brilliant, clear blue. The deafening noise of the storm and the cramped, stressful months inside the box are finally behind them. Following them is the greatest stampede in history. Thousands of animals pour out of the ark, squawking, roaring, and galloping down the mountainside. They are eager to stretch their legs, ready to spread out and fill the earth with life once again. The very first thing Noah does is build an altar. He does not rush to build a house for himself. He does not run off to start claiming land or planting crops. He stops, looks up at the wide open sky, and offers a sacrifice of deep gratitude. He says thank you for their survival, and in response, the Creator makes a beautiful, lasting promise. He promises that he will never again destroy all living creatures with a flood. The reset button has been pushed, but God declares it will never be pushed like this again. To seal this cosmic promise, God puts a sign in the sky. He casts a brilliant, glowing, colorful rainbow across the clouds. It is a visual guarantee for Noah, his family, and all future generations that even after the darkest, most terrifying storms, grace and mercy will always have the final word. When we look back at this incredible journey, it is easy to get caught up in the massive scale of the flood or the crazy logistics of a giant wooden boat full of animals. But at its core, this is a profoundly human story about fresh starts. It tells us that even when the world feels completely broken, and even when the storms in our own lives feel overwhelming and endless, there is always hope for a new beginning. Noah was just an ordinary man who chose to listen, chose to build, and chose to hold on to faith in the pitch-black dark. He shows us that sometimes survival is just about doing the next right thing, hammering the next nail, and trusting that the rain will eventually stop. It reminds us that no matter how deep the water gets, there is always solid ground waiting on the other side. And that's the story of Noah and the flood.